Good afternoon, guys. What's going on? My name is Brandon, and today we are going to be building some target stands. Let me bring you in. So here we are, guys. This is what we're going to be building today. What these are an adjustable target stand, and the way they work is you can put some strapping lumber in here, or you can even put some 2x2 lumber in here. Then you take a piece of cardboard and you attach that to the wood, and then you can have your target attached to the cardboard. And they're all adjustable. They expand. They're super lightweight, but they're super heavy duty. This is going to be a MIG welding project. Now, this would be a great beginner welding project for you guys just starting out and you want to make a little bit of money. And I will go over all the dimensions for you before we end this video so that if you guys want to duplicate this, you can build this yourself. I'll explain to you what I charge and whatnot. And like I said, I'll have a material list down below, but this is 1x3 steel. This is 2x2. They're both 1/8 inch thick. This is 1.5 inch angle, 1/8 inch thick. This is 1.5 inch tube steel, 14 gauge. This is 1.25 inch tube steel, 14 gauge. And I'll give you the lengths as we do it.
I'm cutting all these pieces to 18 inches long. Now, one of the things I'm going to talk to you about a little bit more in detail as we go with this video is making some money with your hobby. Now, this is a perfect project for you guys to do as a beginner welder, especially whereas we're coming into winter. And I don't know about you, but every winter I always try to find a little project to work on to keep me busy. And this is one of those projects to keep you busy that can earn you some money without a whole lot of liability.
We just finished cutting these, so now we'll cut these. And those need to be 15 inches long.
Now I'm just doing the same thing here. I'm cutting the square tube on the bias. Now this saw comes with a little adapter piece that slips over the fence, the part that clamps the material in, and that allows you to quickly place the material within it so that you can cut it on the bias. Again, you're just doing this because it adds a lot more life to the blade of your tool. I've tried it the other way and not done it this way, and it does definitely shorten the blade life.
So now we got all that piece cut. So now let's work on cutting this 1x3. Now these right here are 8 inches long. I'm no longer, for the production after this point, going to be making these 8 inches. I'm going to make them 6, just because they don't need to be this long. It's not necessary, so it's a waste of material. But I am making these 8 inches long for this because this customer purchased 3 of these that I already had in stock, and they wanted 3 more. So I'm just going to make them all identical. But from this point forward, I'm going to always make this and this 6 inches. They don't need this either. This little set screw. The strapping fits in here and the lumber fits in here tight enough that you don't have to worry about it coming out. It just doesn't come out.
Whenever I do a project, I try to do the order of operations all the same. So what I'm trying to do now is I'm just getting all my cuts out of the way.
Now we'll cut our 1.25 tube, and this is 14 gauge in thickness, and we're going to make that 15 inches long.
If you can group all your similar tasks up like this, it just makes organization a lot better and it makes you a lot more productive. So that's why I do it this way. Try to get all my cuts out of the way before I move on to the next process.
Now that we've got all our pieces cut, now it's time to assembly. Now this is for 3 guys, so I'm only going to be doing 1. You probably won't see me build all 3 on camera because after you build 1, they're all the same. So the next step is we got to get the welder set up for what we're welding. Now the first thing we're going to be welding is we're going to start welding the verticals to the angles. So that's 1/8 inch, so we got to set our welder up for 1/8 inch material. And this welder is just so easy to set up. I love using it. I really liked my Hobart a lot, but I'll tell you what, this is like night and day. This is a Cadillac compared to that. Now I know I've talked to you guys a lot about this in the past, but I just kind of like to show it. I don't know, I'm just excited about it. I really like this welder, so it's kind of fun to show how it works and all the functions. So this is a fully synergic machine, meaning it's fully digital. You put in a few parameters and it does everything on its own. This does MIG, TIG, and stick welding. And you can see there's a whole selection. So you select your wire, you select your material thickness. So we're on material thickness now. So 1/8 inch is 125 thousandths. So we're using solid steel wire. And you toggle through your wire size, so you can go anywhere from 23 thousandths down to 45 thousandths. We're using 30 thousandths. And then you select your gas. And we are using C25 or argon and 25%. So the great thing about this is that it has 2 ports on the back. And I've been told that a couple of the other machines, like I think well, Miller maybe might have one, but this is great because you don't have to like disconnect the gauge setup to go from, you know, like let's say straight argon to go to a C25 gas. So it just saves a lot of time. If you have two bottles, you can keep them set up and just swap by hitting this toggle button here. So now we just turn on our gas. As always, you want to stand off to the side whenever you're turning on your bottle, and you want to turn it on real slow. And that's in case something lets go in here, something pops and it explodes. You don't want it to hit you. And with C25, you always open it all the way. Now this machine has a purge feature, so you can hit this button, and what it will do is it'll turn on the gas solenoid so you can set it. And you can see here I'm set for a 20 CFH. If you don't turn it off, I believe this turns off in 30 seconds, so you won't empty your bottle, but we're all set, so I just hit it again, that turns it off. So now we are all set up now to start welding. Now if you haven't seen how we built this table, guys, go check this out. I think you'll find this real interesting. This is just a regular piece of like 1/2-inch plate steel, and I drilled it using a template to make it all perfect. And then I built these clamps that you can see back here. Well, not built the clamps, but I modified these clamps. And then for material stops, and they also make a material stop, but I'm using shoulder bolts. You can see how that is. You could actually cut this off, but these are like precision ground, so they fit these standard size 5/8 holes. I'll put a link up above if you want to check out how I built this, but this thing has turned out to be a huge time saver in the workshop, and it just makes all my work come out that much better. So let me show you how we're going to be doing this. So whenever you fabricate something, you always want everything nice and parallel and square, and you don't want to preferably have to keep like measuring and pulling out a tape measure and stuff like that. So using a fabrication table like this, or a layout table, is a great way to do this. So what I'll do is I'll drop in one of these little shoulder bolts like that. Now that gives me a nice parallel surface there, and I know that I want one of these this way. So this kind of just helps build everything square. And although, you know, if I had another piece of material when it comes time to do this, this will be great because I can throw in another set of stops like this. And now I know that this piece right here is 90 degrees to that. It has to be, because that's how I've laid out this table. Like I said, I used a template when I drilled this. I made a template, and by me making that template, it made this table absolutely perfect. All these holes are 90 degrees and square to one another. So yeah, it worked out really slick. Now in that video I used a magnetic drill that I own, but you can also rent a mag drill. Drilling this by hand with an electric drill isn't really the way to do it. You're going to want to use what's called an annular cutter, and if you don't own a mag drill, rent one. It's going to make this job a lot easier, and they're not a lot of money to rent either. So now the next thing I need to do is I need to put an 1.25-inch tube against this right here. Now, to verify that that's square, I can just grab a set of these shoulder bolts, and boom, as long as this is up against those stops, now I can just move this over like this, and this is 90 degrees. It has to be. So now we'll just tack that together. See how easy that is, guys? Minimal amount of tools to make sure that this thing is lined up and square. So there's the left side. Now I got to make a right side. And now I could take all the shoulder bolts from the left side and move them over to the right. I don't need to, because I have enough shoulder bolts that I can swap them back. I don't need to swap them. So I can leave them set up, and I can work left to right without changing any adjustments.
Now, if you haven't seen this episode where we built this fabrication table, I'll put a link up above.
Now, like I said, guys, this is going to be the last time that I build these this way. And this is where the change is going to come in. If you guys want to build them, I'm only doing this because it matches what I have in stock. And they're buying 6, and I already have 3. The way the other ones are is that it's got a 3/4-inch gap underneath the bottom. And it's welded here, and it's welded under the bottom. So it's like that. I'm not going to do the next ones that way. I'm going to make this 6 inches long, and this one's already 6 inches long, and I'm just going to set it down flat on the bottom and weld it on the sides. Weld it here, 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 and here. Just a short, 1 inch weld on 4 corners, and that's all it needs. So it cuts down a little bit on your materials, and it cuts down a little bit on your labor because you're not having to measure that 3/4 of an inch, and it's saving you 2 inches on every one of these. So for every 3 of these that you cut, basically you end up with a third one for free, because 2 times 3 is 6, and if we make these 6 inches and they're now 8, we get a free one every 3, if that makes sense. So yeah, so that's what we're going to do, but we got to match the other ones, so it is what it is. So I'll set that on there, and we'll get ready to weld it up. There, now that's built, guys, with the exception of the holes. So we got to drill a hole here and weld a nut, and I don't know, I'm still undecided if I'm going to put a nut and a bolt here. They're not really necessary based on all the other people that have bought these and used them. They kind of said that that's kind of like an added thing that doesn't really need to be there. This one does, because you want to set the width. But for the most part, the strapping fits in here snug enough, and the wood fits in here snug enough. It's not like it's going to just, like, the wind's going to lift it up out and blow it on the ground. So what I'm going to do now, guys, is I will just put it on fast forward. I'm going to build the other. I got 2 more to build, and then we'll go back and we'll start welding this stuff fully out, and then we'll do our drilling and our tapping, because after you drill the hole through and weld the nut on, the nut is not going to be the same size as it was prior to welding it, so we're going to have to do some tapping and some threading and stuff like that. So it does add a lot of extra work by putting those in, which I don't have a problem doing if they need to be there. But if I'm just doing it for something to do and people are telling me that they really don't need to be there, it's kind of like an added thing that's not being used, and there's no point of adding something to it that doesn't need to be there.
So for you guys just starting out, and maybe you've been doing it for a while, I can't tell you enough how awesome this fabrication table is. It literally just takes things up a whole nother level. It makes fabrication work so much better, so much more enjoyable. The quality is better because you're not having to check and double check with a square all the time. It just makes fabrication so much easier. If you haven't seen that video, guys, go ahead and check it out. I think you'll really like it.
So what do you think, guys? That probably took me maybe a minute and a half to tack everything together. And the reason for that is that, and I could even set up stops, and I probably would set up like a 9-inch stop right here to make this so that it fell, so I'd never have to do any measuring. But other than that, I really only had to pull my tape measure out once. I never pulled out a square. This table right here just saves so much time, and I mean, this hardly cost anything, honestly. I mean, these are budget Harbor Freight clamps that we've modified by putting on basically the same shoulder bolt, welding it onto the end of them, and just buying packs of shoulder bolts. You can see right here, these are just a standard 5/8, and so these are ground down to just a few thousandths under 5/8, and I could always cut off this thread too, which don't have to, I guess, you know. So, but you can see how that's pretty tight. You know, I made sure to buy them all from the same manufacturer, and I bought plenty because, you know, it rests against the head, and the head's pretty consistent as well. So I didn't know if the heads were going to be different from one manufacturer to the other. So I have enough that I don't ever think I'll need to buy any more. So yeah, these are pretty slick. This whole fabrication table works out pretty good. So now that I got everything all tack welded, this is where I'm going to get all tooled up. I'm going to wear a respirator. I'm going to wear, you know, nice heavy gloves. Try to be safe. Now this is the respirator that I normally use, and every now and again I get comments like, why would you use a particle respirator for welding? Because that's not what they're for. Well, these 3M 2091s, that's actually what they are for. They listed in many websites, including on 3M's, that these are an acceptable respirator for welding type fumes. These fit underneath your helmet. These are low profile, so yeah, and this isn't that expensive. Well, at least it wasn't when I bought it. I think whole COVID now has everything, the price is driven right through the roof, but I want to say, I think pre-COVID, this was like a $10 setup. So yeah, these are acceptable to wear under your helmet. It's an added little thing for your lungs. You know, everything that this catches is less that your lungs are catching. It looks like these are about due to be changed, but yeah. So let's get going. Let's weld this stuff up.
Now, as we were talking about earlier, every winter I always try to come up with a project that we can do, and that just helps keep me busy and gives me something to do, kind of shake off the winter boredom. A lot of times it has to do with a automotive type thing, or a motorcycle, or a dirt bike. That's what it's going to be this winter. It's going to be a dirt bike rebuild. But for those of you that welding is your hobby, this is one of those great things that you can do to make a little bit extra money without a whole lot of liability involved, as we talked about earlier. Now, let's say you were to build a car trailer or something like that as one of your first projects. There's a huge pile of liability in that, and I don't think that that's anything that you want to take on unless you've got insurance and all the other stuff. Well, this is one of those projects, like a target stand, that you can build that's not going to cost you a whole lot of money to build them. You're going to be able to hone your welding skills as you do it, and there's not a lot of liability. Now, depending on where you are, your costs are going to vary. You know, if you have insurance, whatever else, all your overhead, lights, materials, gas, wire, it all varies from region to region. But for me, with all my costs factored in and my profit, I sell these for $70 a piece. Again, that could change drastically depending on where you live. And another thing, if you want to make a little bit more money, you got to shop around. You got to price out your steel. There's a drastic difference in my area. Just traveling 10 extra miles, I save myself a pile of money as compared to the place that's a little bit closer. It costs me a lot more. So it pays to do your research, and don't ever buy your metal from a big box store. It's going to cost you a fortune.
There, that went along really quick. So now that we got everything all welded out and matching the other set, now we got to put in the stops right here that keep this that lock it down for the adjustability. So that's just a matter of drilling a hole through that and then welding a nut onto it. And if we want to match the original stand, we have to come back 3/4 of an inch to center, and then we'll just center it this way in the space. So to do that, we'll measure back 3/4 like that, and I'm just using a scribe, and then scribe it the other direction 3/4. And I know it's probably hard for you guys to see, and then we'll just center punch it. Then we'll do the same thing on this one. We'll come back roughly 3/4, which is there, and then I'll make another mark at 3/4, which is there. I'll just highlight that so you guys can see it. This drill has now become my dedicated pilot hole drill, just because I have my other drill now, which is made for everything. There, so that'll get the hole started. Just gotta do that 2 more times. I absolutely love this drill press, guys. If you haven't seen this build video, I'll put a link up above, you can check it out. But I picked this up on Marketplace. I picked it up super cheap. The motor was all clapped out, the bearings were bad. Somebody had tampered with and bent a bunch of stuff up inside the centrifugal mechanism. It just needed a lot of work, and it wasn't really worth fixing. So I modified it to accept a mag drill, and this thing is awesome. And the one thing that I really like is that it has a crank for the bed, for the table. So you can just crank it up to get it to where you want it. A lot of the drill presses don't have that, and that's just an awesome feature. So snug this up to roughly where we need it. Turn the magnet on the back. This has an automatic inline oiler, so that saves you that whole step. Turn it on. And that's that easy.
I've wanted to build one of these mag drill presses for quite some time, but if you've ever looked on Marketplace or Craigslist or any place like that, it is hard to find a nice drill press that isn't a whole lot of money. I really lucked out when I found this one because it needed a lot of work. So I was able to cut off the whole motor section and weld on a flat plate. So now I have a dual purpose mag drill and drill press. And if you want to check out that video, I'll put a link up above. I think you'll like it.
Like I was telling you guys earlier, now we got to tap out the hole, because the shape of the nut will change a little bit from welding it. So I'm just using a 3/8 coarse tap, putting a little tapping tap stick on it, and then we'll just run it down through the nut. This will just ensure that the bolt that goes down through this is going to work nice and smooth. It won't bind up. You know, guys, just running that tap down through it is just a little small added piece of labor, but it's going to make your job look that much better. So, you know, the customer goes to use this, you want to do this by hand. It doesn't need to be cranked right down with a pair of pliers, but if they need a pair of pliers to take it apart after they just hand tightened it because it, you know, galled up or it had like a little burr in it, it just kind of makes you look bad. So it only takes a little quick second sometimes to do these little small details that matter. And it just gives you a better product. And in the end run, it's going to give you a better name, especially if you're looking to do this full time, you know, because you want people to talk about this and say, geez, those are really nice. They're handy, or they work good, they're easy to set up, whatever it is. Just make sure that your stuff is a little bit better than the next guy's. You know what I'm saying? It's not always about price. A lot of times people are willing to pay just a little bit more to get something a lot better. Does it make sense? And in my experience, people generally will pay a little bit more money for something a little bit better. And you don't necessarily want to work for free. Nobody wants you to work for free, because when you start working cheap and you start cutting corners, that's what you're going to get. You're going to start getting junk. I almost completely forgot, guys, that they wanted tent stakes provisions for this like the other ones had. So we got to do that too. Oh well.
So what I'm doing here, guys, is I'm just measuring back 3/4 of an inch from the end, and then I'm measuring in 3/4 of an inch, and then I'm just taking a center punch and I'm punching the center hole, then bringing it over here to my pilot drill press, which this is how I have this drill press set up now, because it just makes it so handy, so I'm not swapping out drill bits. Then I bring it back over to my magnetic drill and finish drilling it out. Now you can see the strap on the right hand side, and what that is, that's a safety. So when the magnet isn't on, I don't have to worry about the magnetic drill being bumped off the drill press.
Alright, now we just got to clean up everything, and I'm just using a 120 grit disc from Empire Abrasives. And if you guys want a super good discount, go ahead and head over to Empire Abrasives. I've got an exclusive promo code exclusive to this channel. It's going to save you a bunch of money on your abrasives. Go check it out.
If you guys are wondering about any of the tools or any of the things that you see me using in this video, you can click the links down below. A lot of those links are exclusive promo deals that are exclusive to this channel. Some of those promo codes may give you a 10% discount off new buyer purchases. Other ones may just be straight discounts off purchases of tools or equipment. And because these are exclusive to this channel, you're going to save yourself a little bit of money that you may not find elsewhere. And whereas one of the big themes of this channel is saving money and doing things yourself, it gives me a lot of joy knowing that I can pass on some savings to you.
This is a lot of the stuff that you guys don't normally see, because I got to put up so much stuff whenever I paint down in my workshop, because I don't want overspray all over my things. So yeah, but these are all sprayed out. They're all looking good. We're going to let them dry overnight. Then I can finish assembly and we can be done with these and get these off to the customer. These are just some things that you guys can build to make yourself a little bit of money. Not a whole lot of liability. If you mess this up and one of these welds happens to fail, think about it. What's going to really happen? It's a target stand. So not a whole lot of liability. You're not going to really probably have to worry about it too much. So these are good projects that you guys can do to help you brush up on your skills and get better. And here they are, guys. They are all done, assembled, and put back together. And you can see here I've got stainless steel screws in all of them just to help with corrosion and weather resistance. And just as a little added thing, I bought some stickers. They're vinyl all-weather stickers, basically signals made in the USA. That's where I am here. I'm in the USA. But as I go to peel them open, made in China. Oh boy. I mean, come on. USA stickers and we can't make them here? Whatever. Crazy, huh? Yeah, anyways, so yeah. I just found that a little humorous. I don't want this to get political or anything like that. I just thought it was kind of odd that a USA sticker would be made in another country, but oh well. Such is life, I guess. And here they are, guys. And this kind of gives it that little finishing touch, like we talked about towards the end of the video about, you know, just doing little extra things to make your stuff a little bit more notable or a little bit better maybe than the next guy. And that's all there is to it, guys. I want to thank you for watching. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you're wondering what I'm working on before it makes it up to YouTube, you guys can catch me on Facebook and on Instagram. If you're wondering about any of the tools that you saw me using in this video, you can click the links down below. A lot of those links have exclusive promo deals that are exclusive to this channel that are going to save you some money. New videos every Friday. Until next week, guys, I will see you then. Take care. Stay safe. See ya. Like, comment, subscribe. Bye.